My co-screenwriter, Chris Brigosh, brought this issue to my attention several years ago. His mother actually lives in the Orlando, Kissimmee area in Florida. He had seen news articles, plus he had actually witnessed himself the situation of the hidden homeless there. These are families and individuals who are living in these budget motels. They are technically homeless. They don't have permanent housing, and they are living week to week in budget motels, and this is just literally one step away from them being on the street. We started researching this topic. We realized it was actually a national problem. I did not know about this. I was intrigued. I wanted to know more, and we decided to explore this as a possible screenplay, focusing on the children. I had always wanted to make a film about children. My entire career has been influenced and inspired by The Little Rascals, the Our Gang series that Hal Roach produced. And we decided, and if you think about what The Little Rascals actually was, there were these comic shorts about the adventures of these young children, and the comedic adventures of young children, but set against the Great Depression. I mean, these were kids living in poverty, but it never focused on that aspect of it. It focused on just the universal theme of childhood, and that's what we wanted to do with this film. We wanted to entertain an audience. Have an audience spend the summer with Moonee and her gang of friends, but then leave them thinking about this very important and timely issue that's happening right now in the United States, the issue of the hidden homeless. We met many children, many single mothers, and we pulled from that. We also pulled from our own childhood. I mean, that was the nice thing about making a film with this universal theme of childhood, that we've all experienced childhood, so we were able to pull a lot from just our own lives. But what was really, we started developing these characters, writing them, and we were actually pretty close to shooting, about a month out, and we were living there. We were living in Kissimmee, and I think there was one night, one day I was actually walking to the local Walmart, and I saw a mom who looked very much in her physicality like Haley, and she was pushing her little daughter around in a shopping cart, and it's very similar to the way that we shot that scene in the 99-cent store, with the mother and daughter just going around in the shopping cart and just having the time of their lives and laughing. And I was intrigued, because I thought, oh my gosh, I think I just found the real Moonee and the real Haley. And we had already written the scene too, so it was a little surreal, you know. I'm like, this is incredible. I actually approached them. We went out for coffee. I sat down, and what was even more surreal and more mind-boggling was that many of the things that we had written in this script was just coming out of this woman's mouth, like how she struggled to keep a roof over her child's head, what she's been dealing with, you know, with homelessness, with the system, with child welfare services, you know, just it seemed to be all coming from her mouth. So I think that we had actually, through our research, collected enough information to make these characters, but then suddenly we found the real characters just so close to production, and it made us confident that our writing was accurate and truthful. There aren't just actors and non-actors, actually. I see it as seasoned actors, first-timers, and non-professionals, okay? And because it's unfair to say non-actors when actually a lot of the actors I end up working with, if it's their first time, they get the acting bug and they'll have a career ahead of them. So, you know, I try to avoid using the word non-professional for the first-timers, because the industry thinks, they hear non-professional and they think unprofessional. You know what I mean? I love the alchemy that happens when you combine seasoned actors with first-timers and non-professionals. You know, in this film, we have Willem Dafoe, with a bunch of first-time actors, including little children. And then we have non-professionals, meaning locals who we decided, oh, let's add them in the scene and shoot them in a docu-style way, interacting with our actors to see what we get. Where it's this hybrid in a way between. It becomes a hybrid between narrative filmmaking, narrative fiction filmmaking, and documentary. I've done this with all of my films, and I always mix it up a bit. We cast in, I would say, unconventional ways, but we use conventional casting, Hollywood casting, and that's how Willem Dafoe comes into the picture. But then we have, a local casting call that goes out to all children in the area, the Orlando and Kissimmee area, in which we are saying they don't need any experience. We just want to meet them and see if they have the right persona and see their chemistry with other children. And then, of course, there's social networks, and that's how I like to. My last film, I used Vine when it was still around to cast. Now I'm using Instagram. We do street casting. Valeria Cotto comes from the street, meaning I was at a Target one night, and I saw her and her mother walking through Target, and I went up and I said, we're casting for an independent film being shot in the area, and I would love if you brought your daughter in to audition. And she trusted me. She looked me up. She realized we were legit. She brought Valeria in, and she kicked butt in her audition. And so it's really interesting to see how then it all comes together on set, and how a seasoned actor who might have a method, how that rubs off on a first-timer who doesn't, and then how the naivete and the freshness of the first-timer rubs off on the seasoned actor. And it's really interesting chemistry going on. And I just like it because it excites me. It gives me stuff to do in the editing room. I'm the editor, so I usually encourage improvisation. I don't force it. I mean, we have a script they can always stick to if they want, but I encourage it because it gives me more options, and it also, I think, allows actors to loosen up a bit and perhaps put our written word into our written lines into their own words. And I was lucky enough, again, because I've been lucky throughout my career to find actors who have that ability to improvise, and even more impressive, a comedic improvisation, which I consider just a genius that you're born with. And for example, with me, I can't even come up with a comeback. It takes me 2 days to think of a comeback, but I'm asking a 6-year-old here to improvise, and she's not only kicking butt with it, but she's holding her own with Willem Dafoe. It's pretty incredible. What excited me going into this film was the possibility of finding the new Spanky McFarlane, all right? I'm very inspired and influenced by The Little Rascals. I look to Spanky McFarlane as literally the greatest child actor ever. And so I said, I'm not going to make the Florida Project unless we find the present-day Spanky McFarlane. And I think we found Spanky in Brooklyn Prince. She is incredible. She matches him and his wonderful, innocence and wit and just cuteness. So I'm really that excited me. The minute that Brooklyn walked into that room to audition, I was like, yes, we got it. We found her. Well, Brooklyn is just she's one of the best actors I've ever worked with of any age. I mean, she truly is. She's one of those born thespians, and she takes it very seriously. She's having fun with it, which is great. At the end of the day, every day, you only have a certain amount of hours that you can work with children in this country. There's child labor laws, so you can't go over a certain amount of hours. So I think it was at around 6 hours, we'd have to call it. And Brooklyn would be like, I don't want to go home. And she would be upset that she has to go home. We're like, we don't want you to go home either, but it's the law. Get out of here. I had an acting coach on the film, Samantha Kwan. She worked with the children, but she also brought on Bria because it was Bria's first time. And while I was busy going crazy about how to shoot a certain thing, they were off almost like in a way it was a summer camp for the kids. So they had fun all day. They were workshopping. They were doing little exercises that they didn't even really know that was getting them into character. And Bria joined those workshops. And I think that by the time I got my hands on them, they were all ready to go. It was great. It was really something I had not done before with my films. I was always scared about a recognizable face. And even Willem, I was worried about. Like, everybody knows Willem Dafoe. This is going to be. I'm worried. Everybody else is a fresh face, pretty much so. I mean, we do have Caleb Landry Jones and Macon Blair and a regular in all of my films, Karan Karagulian. But Willem is such a known face. But you know what? He's so transformative and so amazing that I think within seconds of seeing him on screen, even in that first shot where Bobby, the character of Bobby, is introduced, you forget it's Willem and you're into Bobby. But to answer your question, I about Bria, there was something, I came across her Instagram page. I don't know how. I think somebody had reposted one of her posts, and it made me laugh. And I checked out her page, and she was not just an Instagram girl taking selfies of herself. She was cracking jokes. She would go on like these little funny rants, really making me smile. She had a very, I would just say, she was so vibrant and just so full of energy, and also very free, and she didn't have a self-consciousness about her. She didn't. So I was using her page as almost an example of what I was looking for this character. I'm like, well, if we can just find somebody or we can find somebody who can do this, this is what I need in the Haley character. And eventually, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because I've had unconventional casting in my previous films. But when somebody just said on my team, they were like, why don't we just reach out to Bria? Reached out to Bria. She came down to Orlando. She auditioned with the children. I didn't want her to go into the audition as playing a mother. I said, we had already cast Brooklyn. I said, go, let's play these scenes like you're her sister, her older sister. So there's more of a sibling type relationship, because I feel that's the relationship between Moonee and Haley in the film. Haley is such a young mom. She probably was 15 when she had Moonee, that I needed that to feel more sibling-like, and that's exactly what happened. We shot these audition tapes. We sent them back. We sent them to the whole team, our financiers at June Pictures. Everybody was just like, this might work. It's a gamble, it's a risk, but she seems really motivated and into it. Bria wanted to work at this. She came in way early, weeks early, to work with our acting coach, and she was so green, but she got there every day. She learned her lines. She rehearsed, and within 2 weeks she was holding her own with Willem Dafoe. Incredible. I'm so proud of her. I really am. I think the biggest challenge of all of my films, and especially these last two, is the balance, the balance between comedy and pathos. It's a fine line, and what we're trying to do with the film is first and foremost entertain the audience, because I think that helps us find a wider audience. That we can attract more people to see this film if they know that they will be entertained and laughing. Right? That's the goal. But we're also tackling some serious issues in this film. So how to do that? How to not hit the audience over the head? How to have them be entertained for 2 hours, and then yet at the same time leave the theater and say, I want to talk about this. I want to discuss this. I want to know, what can I do to help? is this happening? See, I didn't know that the issue of the hidden homeless even existed. I didn't know this until my co-screenwriter brought this to my attention. And I feel a lot of us don't. A lot of us aren't aware of this situation. So my goal with this film is to shed light on it, yet at the same time do it in a way that is that it doesn't assault the audience. It's not a documentary. We're not throwing statistics at the audience and everything like that. We're hopefully inspiring the audience to learn more about it on their own.
We really follow this precocious 6-year-old kid and their friends and her friends. It's summertime. They're hanging out at the motel. They're having adventures. There's a little feeling of the Little Rascals or Huck Finn to it. And then there's, of course, the relationships with their parents, and it's a world. It's a world. And from my end, Bobby's, I'm trying to run the place. I'm trying to make sure that everybody's okay, and I'm okay, and the place isn't destroyed, and the cops don't come, and I'm stressed out. Bobby is a guy that is the manager of the motel, and he's very conscientious. He's a little haggard because there's a lot to do, and he has to wear lots of hats. I think, you don't know a character until you do it. But he's got, on the page, I liked his job, I liked who I thought he could be, but what really, in the shooting, it became clear that he wears so many hats and has so many different kinds of relationships with people that was the pleasure of doing the role. He's a caretaker, and he's not, the nice thing is he's not an extraordinarily gifted person, a special person. He's a very normal person, but he's got a big heart, and he's very conflicted because he's kind of an authority there. He's got to protect the property, he's got to protect the rules, he has a sense of order. He's trying to get order in what is sometimes a very chaotic place, but at the same time, he's always tempted to bend the rules because he basically is very empathetic and cares about these people. And he's also living there. So he's a part because he sort of represents, he's the authority in this place, but he's one of them as well. He's part of this kind of loose community. I think I was unaware of this kind of phenomenon of these homeless families living in these budget tourist hotels outside of Disneyland. So it seemed like a very specific world, and it pointed to, just had a sense of now, and I think it was basically that place, that very specific place, and the fact that he was mixing me in with all kinds of children, first-time actors, younger actors, was exciting. I had to fit in. Sean, he edits it, he writes it, he directs it. I mean, it's very complete. Movies are sometimes so fragmented, but he really is an auteur. And I like working with writer-directors very much. Plus, he cuts it as well. So he's got a looseness to him, but he's also has very definite ideas. So he has a good structure, he has a good feeling for structure, and he cut it beautifully, I think. But at the same time, he's always open to something happening, which is great, particularly when you're working with at a real location with a mixture of professional actors and people. There's trade-offs. There's certain things that, because they aren't used to performing, sometimes it's hard to repeat things. There was a very good script, and that was very much a guide, but also Sean likes to mix it up. He's very loose. He's very open to improvisation, and he's very clever at creating situations that he can kind of abandon the script but still get the narrative, make kind of a parallel event, not necessarily scenes. He'll make events, and that's particularly important when you're working with children. But it was great because if you cast well and the people are not self-conscious and they're very present, even if they don't have traditional actor skills, you get something else. You get that presence, you get that commitment, you get that kind of freshness. And in fact, I always get turned on by situations where I have to, be like it's the first time. And somewhere I feel like that every time. And that's kind of necessary to really not go to the same impulses all the time. I think people will be surprised by this world. I think people don't know that this world exists. And I think when they watch it, they'll think about what their relationship is to people like that, what maybe their responsibility is towards people that are kind of slip through the cracks because we have don't have a strong social welfare system in the States. So if you can't make it in the kind of, strict capitalist terms, it's very easy to get in trouble very quickly. It also, it doesn't point fingers, but it shows a cycle of an underclass. But at the same time, it's very joyous because you're seeing it through the eyes of these kids.
I am Brooklyn Prince, and I'm 7 years old, and I'm in 2nd grade, and I play a little girl named Moonee who is very adventurous. She's very bossy, and she's a troublemaker, and she's fun nonstop. She likes to eat ice cream, get waffles. Besides the food, she likes to run around, play, get into mischief sometimes. But sometimes she can regret getting into mischief, which I'm like, why? She's like Spanky. I don't know if I got his name right, but yeah, she wants also to protect her friends and keep them out of trouble and stuff. So her friends are Jancy, Scooty, and Dickie. Jancy is her best friend in the movie, and she is very shy. And at first, she does not really like Moonee as well because she spit on her. And Scooty, she's just been her friend just around the years and stuff. Also Dickie, but the Florida project is about Haley and Moonee living in this motel, but Haley is going through some rough times, and it's about these motel kids that need help, but they're no different like us. I auditioned first, so I met the kids, I interacted with them, I made best friends with them, and then the day we got on set, I'm like, hey, I know those people. Sean is very, very, very nice. I can't describe how good he was because he was just the best director I ever worked with. He was just so nice, and he wasn't like kids are kids. They can entertain themselves. He would come over on his breaks and hang out with us. And he's just a great director. He won't get upset when we get our lines wrong, and he lets me improvise a lot. And he's very honest and kind, and it was the bomb. For Moonee, it's fun. She loves her mom. There's not one part in the movie that she's like, I don't like you. She wants to stay close to her mom and always will be just like her mom. But, like, sometimes she doesn't get really enough, like, clothes or food, and sometimes she feels a little left out. So I think for Haley, it's hard to have a kid in that situation. The hotel was I like it a lot. At the Magic Castle, you can see like the fireworks at night. Sometimes we'll like hear them going off, and I like it that it's purple. There's like all these scenes that I can like tell you that I love, but like I'll tell you a couple. I like the buffet scene because like I got to grab like everything. I also like the shopping spree. For some reason, I don't know why I said cotton balls. Moonee, she learned to be, how do you say it? She learns to be she learns how to protect herself in trying to stay with her mom, and learns to be loving and kind and nice and not to be bossy. And yeah, really, I was kind of worried about the end of the movie. For me to cry, I just really thought about these children really having to go through this, and I'm thinking of really being in that situation. So that's just what came a tear in my eye. So I think people will like to see the light, like to bring the people that bring to light Moonee's story, and to learn how to help out. And I think that they'll like that a director made like the world a better place.
I got involved with the Florida project by getting contacted by Sean through Instagram, so that was kind of interesting. The first day he contacted me, I ended up watching all his movies to kind of get a feel of how he was as a director and how he films and his visions, and I really liked everything. So I was like, oh, okay. He had me fly to Orlando to audition. I spent like 2 days in Florida, and then about a month later we were filming. Sean is a really easy person to work with. He made me feel so comfortable from the beginning, and that was one of the biggest things I was concerned about, was how our relationship was going to be, and it was just so easy to talk to him about everything. I really just feel like I got so lucky with our relationship and the experience I had with him as a director that it's almost hard imagining not working with him again. I would describe Haley as the best mother she could be under her circumstances. I mean, I feel like people don't realize, they might look at her as this harsh, mean person who is not great to Moonee, but at the end of the day, people don't realize how many different circumstances you could be born into or you just can't control, you know? She grew up there. It's not her fault. Where she's from doesn't have jobs, doesn't have opportunities for her. And it's kind of like, in those situations, what do? She has to figure out a way to make money. Regardless of how it is, she needs to keep a roof over her daughter's head. She needs to buy food for her. So at a certain point, everything flies out the window, all your morals, all your everything, and you just have to figure it out because it's more than just for you. She had a child young. She's a little crazy, but I feel like the reason she's so angry throughout the film is all out of love, is she's just trying and struggling and constantly failing. And having somebody so young to take care of when you could barely take care of yourself is also a struggle within itself. I do feel like she's a fun girl, and she tries to always lighten the mood and just make everything seem less hectic than it is. But I also feel like she suppresses a lot because as much as she's honest with Moonee about things, I also feel like she is trying to shelter her from things like her getting taken away and just like, little things that she's kind of just trying to make it seem like they're not as big of a deal as they are. I am an untrained actress, so I was a little bit nervous because Sean was taking a really big risk with me and I didn't want to ruin his entire movie. So I flew in about 2 weeks early, and me and the kids every day just did classes all day, every day. And that really kind of got us closer and got us really into, because we were at the Magic Castle every day doing these classes, so it got us kind of like in the feel of everything, comfortable with the environment, with each other, and we just really trusted the whole process. For the acting classes that we just had an amazing teacher, Samantha Kwan, and the first few days we kind of did just game workshops that the kids could kind of open up and learn how to get direction. I would do that with her, and then on top of that, I would also just, with the lines, she taught me how to memorize lines, she taught me how to get into character. She kind of did a little bit of a different thing with me than with the kids, but I was still there through all their classes as well because I wanted to just bond with them and make it more natural. It would really just be so mind-boggling how maybe 2 or 3 weeks in, I would go on set for the day and Brooklyn would be screaming, "Mom!" And I'd be like, "Oh my God, like this is crazy. Like this is like my little fake daughter." We really got there. Working with Brooklyn was a really good experience for me. She is so smart and talented, and we would be there on set and she would just look around and be like, "They said rolling. Everyone has to be quiet." And I'd be like, "Yes, okay, girl." I get it. She definitely knows what she's doing, and I just see such a bright future for her. I'm so happy I met her so young because I feel like I'm just going to get to watch her whole life just blossom. Working with Willem was very surprising to me in the sense that he was just so humble and cool and just easy to be around because I didn't know what to expect. I feel like when you think of all these classic actors that have been around for so long, you almost think that they're gonna have this almost like uppity way about them of just, cause they could, shit, like he's done a lot, so he doesn't have to treat us like equals, and he did, and it was just so nice because we just all felt like a family, and I just felt very lucky. If I had questions, he'd give me advice, and it was just really nice to have somebody that treated us equal to him. I almost feel like Bobby's relationship with Haley is, he's sort of the only father figure she has in his life at the moment. And as much as he's just the manager of the motel, he also cares about everybody living there. Like, you could tell he genuinely cares about their well-being. And I feel like I'm a headache to him, and I'm a little extra. I'm always smoking weed and just doing little stuff that I shouldn't be doing. But I also feel like he cuts me the slack because he knows that I'm not a bad person. I'm just trying, and it gets hard, and he gets it. The hardest scene for me to shoot was probably the little screaming match I have with Bobby, where with the whole pad on the wall. I was just like, this sounds crazy, Sean. I was like, I can't do that. No matter how angry somebody makes me, that is just not what my reaction would be. And I was really scared of not making it look believable. So initially, they had cut just that little part with the pad. And then I got to set the day we're filming it, and they're like, "Actually, Bria, we put it back in." And I was like, oh, I didn't even prepare for this. It was so nerve-wracking. But it ended up turning out great, so I'm not mad at it. It was just a lot of craziness in my head just trying to get it together. I feel like people will relate to the honesty. It's one of those movies that doesn't sugarcoat anything, and I feel like a lot of times where people tell stories that are kind of difficult to watch. They either have a happy ending or they get sugar-coated, or it's just not as real, also in the sense of there's a lot of just daily life. Not everything is crazy action always happening. It's just life, you know? And I feel like it's so different. I don't really see a lot of films that just take it day by day and kind of pace themselves out the way this movie does. All these stories of people struggling, they need to be told, because once they're told, these people deserve help. These people deserve recognition, and these people deserve just somebody there to listen, and they don't have that. And I feel like once you shed light on these situations, it just puts more eyes on everything, and it kind of gets handled a little bit better, because now it's like everyone's like, well, what are you guys going to do to fix this? And they kind of have to get it together. It's just not fair to all those people. They're literally one step away from homelessness. None of them have permanent housing. These motels could just kick them out any day. You know what I mean? And it's just sad. Nobody should have to live like that. For me, there's a million things that could be taken away, but I also feel like everyone views it differently. And that's also the magic of it, because some person might take away something I never even thought of. So that's always cool. But I definitely hope that people take it as an opportunity to learn about things that they might not necessarily have in front of them, but are still really important to just not be ignorant about.
The Florida Project, in a few words, would be real, funny, sad, an emotional roller coaster, colorful, and beautiful. Well, after reading the script, I just felt completely blown away. It was beautifully written, and it pulled at my heartstrings to hear about these families that go through this, and no one has ever heard about them. Like, I never heard about them until the script. So I was excited to get there and to just be thrown into the reality of what it actually is. I got involved with the project. They hit me up directly, basically. Sean, I was a part of a short film called Gang, which had one staff pick on Vimeo, and Sean saw it, and he contacted me directly saying that he wrote Ashley with me in mind. So I was like, this is really? Like, what? Whoa. So yeah, no audition, no anything. I just got the part. Sam helped me a lot getting prepared for the role. Like, I don't know how I would have gotten through this without her. She was my acting coach, and we would stay up for hours literally rehearsing, and she'd be like, okay, you need to feel this more, maybe, you know, kind of turn down more there, you know? So she just completely guided me through the whole process. I don't know how I would have gotten through without her. Okay, so Ashley, I feel like, met Haley at the hotel at the Magic Kingdom. Ashley was already living there, and Haley came with Moonee, and she, you know, she felt the connection to her, and she wanted to help her, and through her helping her and being there, a support system for her, they developed this beautiful friendship and relationship. Ashley is a mother. I feel like she identifies herself as a mother. She's a nurturer, a caretaker, and she loves. She's a good person. She's an amazing person, and she loves so strong, and she takes care of the people in her tribe. And Haley's her tribe, Moonee and Scooty, definitely. Working with Sean Baker was effortless. He didn't force his idea of Ashley down my throat. He just let me connect with her and kind of vibe and grow with her the way it felt natural to me. And I appreciate that so much, because there were certain things that I didn't connect with initially, that how she handled things, I was like, I don't really feel that. And he was just like, well, how would you do it? And then we got to a good place, and I felt comfortable. I felt happy with it, with Ashley. And yeah, it was really good. Working with Willem Dafoe was a dream. Like, literally, I come from a dance background. This is my first time ever doing anything like this in my life. So, like, to just be all of a sudden, like, acting alongside Willem Dafoe, I'm like, is this real life? I like slapped myself before the scene, like, get it together. And it was amazing. He's such an incredible human being. Like, as a person, he's amazing, and like, his acting, he's just incredible. So it was a dream. He helped me a lot. I was like, am I doing okay? Is this cool? Like, does this feel real? That was like a hashtag. Like, does this feel real? I'm like, is this convincing? And he's like, you're doing great. Just chill. Like, you're amazing. Just go with it. And I did, and it was a dream.
Nancy is a girl who lives in a motel, and what she likes to do for fun is she likes to play with her sister Lucy. I went over my lines and I kept practicing, and then we just got on whatever we had to do. Well, sometimes I was a little nervous. That was my first movie ever, so I was like really shy. It was fun working with Sean. And hard because all that scene stuff, I was really tired of it. We had to go over, and over. His girlfriend, Sam, she always like warm us up, get us ready. Yeah, she helped a lot. I relate to Jancy, because first, she's shy, but when I get to know someone or they get to know me, I get a little outgoing. Well, they met at Jancy's home because they spit on my grandma's car. And the relationship of them is like best friends. Like, when we run outside, we play. That's something I get really excited about. So my favorite scene is where Moonee comes over to Jancy's house and we have a big sleepover. We had Cheetos. There was so many toys. So we were playing with them. It was so fun. Well, when we get in trouble, it's like sometimes we like act cool. We don't act guilty. We're like, we didn't do that. We were trying to fix it. Like, we just don't act guilty. We stay cool. There's a lot of fun stuff in it, and like sometimes a little sad, and that's all I can say.
Sean Baker and I have worked together for a very long time now, and this was right after an MTV show we did. We were starting a movie called Starlet, and this is around 2012, and I just, brought him this story, and I said, this seems like a Sean Baker film. And he was equally sort of curious and intrigued by this backdrop for a potential story, and we began researching it. We actually really wanted to get this movie going way back then, and sometimes things take a while, and it's good that it did, because we always like to say that our actors, Brooklyn and Valeria, wouldn't have been even born yet back then, or they'd been like 1 year old, so everything happens for a reason. The writing process with Sean and I is definitely a very interesting, collaborative explosion, because we don't just sit down and do the traditional index cards or note cards on a wall. We like to just immerse ourselves in the world. With Tangerine, we actually just kind of hung out with Maya and Kiki to just sort of immerse ourselves in their world. And we did the same here. We would take research trips down to Orlando, Kissimmee, and just kind of check into the motels and just approach people and ask them, can we just talk to you about your lives here? Many people just told us to get out of there. Some motel managers threatened to call the police on us, but others greeted us with open arms. And upon talking to these families, we hear their heartbreaking tales about not being able to put that first and last month's, security deposit down on an apartment, and they're forced. This is the only place they can do, and pay with cash. And, a lot of times we heard stories that broke our hearts, and we knew that we need to include that little bit, or we need to include that little bit. For example, would have no idea that they're made to evacuate. They're not allowed to establish residency in the motels, so they're not allowed to stay there more than a month. So one day out of every 30 days, they have to take all their stuff and check out. And you hear these things, and you're like, okay, that's an interesting story point. We can create something with these little tidbits. And so it's really fun for us to actually just immerse ourselves. And I think that it's very important to Sean, as a director, to be as most realistic as possible. And I think that's another time where we're almost obsessive compulsive about our research. Okay, I don't know how much Sean's told you about our casting. I mentioned that we had an outline way back in 2012, and we always wanted to cast the role of Haley, the mom, sort of with an A-lister. Back then, the mom had a much smaller role. But we realized that it was just it would benefit our film if we went with someone that was a fresh face, and there were no preconceived notions going in. And Sean discovered Bria on Instagram and had a meeting with Bria and hit it off right away with her. And when we meet actors, then we can go back and retailor the role to the actor that we've cast in that role. So I think that once we got our cast, we definitely reshaped the story around them using their strengths. So casting Brooklyn Prince. She was a local in Florida, and she responded to our casting calls and immediately just walked in the room. These films require a lot of loose sort of improv skills, and we have a full script, but we also want the actors to be able to take it and make it their own, and it's a very give and take process. And a lot of the kids were great, but then they don't have necessarily the skills to improv when the cameras are rolling. And so Brooklyn walked in and just had it all. And we knew right then and there this was the Moonee that we had in our heads for 5 years come to life. And then Valeria was an amazing discovery by Sean in the local Target down in Kissimmee. And he just approached her and told her to come in for casting. And same thing, just instant chemistry and fantastic improv skills. For the role of Bobby, we always had this manager character. And again, he was actually 3 roles combined into one when we're sort of rewriting the script and streamlining it. And the more we thought about it, the more we needed someone with Willem's, his gruffness. But we've always seen Willem, playing these sort of villains and creepy, unsavory type characters. So when Sean brought up the idea, I'm like, let's use Willem Dafoe in a way that we've both never seen him. Let's just write a role for him that is something that's a little different for him. And that was what was fun for us as writers, to just sort of, what could we do with Willem Dafoe that maybe we haven't seen before, and give him this heart. And we talked to a lot of the hotel managers. There was one in particular that ran one of the motels, and it was a really great resource because a lot of the things you'll see in the Florida project actually happened when me and Sean would be researching, walking onto these motel properties. For example, one of these guys came out with a baseball bat because we're walking around and there's kids around and he doesn't know what we're up to. And there's a scene in the Florida project that is inspired by that moment with Willem. Locations were so important for me. I've been going to Disney World with family since I was 4 years old, growing up in New York and New Jersey area. And so I was basically location scouting this movie all my life. And approaching the story, we knew there were so many locations that we wanted to include in the story, and we didn't know where. We had a list of about 20 locations, things like the tree, the fallen tree, the Wizard gift shop, Orange World, which is a gift shop that's been there forever. And about 90% of them had to fall by the wayside. You couldn't include all of them, or else it would just be one massive tour of a movie. But we kept the ones that served the story the most and were most visually interesting. For example, when they're, people aren't going to think about this, but when they're crossing the Wizard gift shop, it's sort of that whole Joseph Campbell hero's journey thing, and Jancy's taking her first step into a larger world. And so we put that against the Wizard, just sort of like as a little homage to things like Frodo leaving Hobbiton with Gandalf and things like that. So we tried to work the locations in there, not just simply because they were visually interesting, but somehow to serve the story. So the friendship of Moonee and Jancy, originally it was a boy and a girl, and it was going to be a little tourist boy that was staying in one of the motels and befriended one of the girls who lived there. And for whatever reason, we just kind of felt it would be more interesting as just a friendship story between a vet of the motels in Moonee and a new girl that's new to that life, and her sort of taking her through it and the audience along with them. And I think that a lot of times you just get lucky with casting, and Brooklyn and Valeria really sort of hit it off in real life. They hadn't known each other, and they just instantly clicked as friends. And I think that really comes across in the film. You could see that they're actually truly having fun together, which helps.